Now let's get started right where we left off, but let's work on doing I'm going to clear my selection there with Control D. Zoom out here. I'm going to go to the other side of my object and open my UV overlay here. And I want to create another repeatable pattern, but I'm going to do something, again, mechanical theme, because it's a hard surface object. And I'm going to use maybe just a plate here. And on top of that plate, maybe add some cutouts, and then maybe add some indents, some dimples, something that you normally see. Again, you see a lot of repeatable patterns on mechanical objects because in most manufacturing processes, you you don't come in and you don't hand paint, hand cut objects that you're going to mass produce, right? So you're going to use machines and repeatable patterns to save materials. And there's a whole slew of reasons. So it's okay to use repeating patterns on some mechanical objects that you want to look more industrial, like they've just come off an assembly line. That makes sense, I'm sure. So here I'm going to make a standard plate. I want the plate to be raised, so I'm going to get out of my down layer here that I have named, zip it, open my up layer, which I don't think is currently. I did zip it, so let me unzip it. Okay, I'm going to use that layer again to make something that's upward facing. I'm going to use my rounded rectangle tool here and just drag something out right about there. Not to go too low down here because I have that pipe and I don't want it to overlap. That would look strange. Let me hide my UV island overlay, select refresh. Oh, here we go again. I'm not sure if this happens before in this video, but this happens to me a lot again with Photoshop, or particularly with this plugin Engaged. I'll create a shape here, and it'll automatically appear up here. It's easy enough to resolve by hitting undo, but what I do I have to make sure that it's done properly. Try that again. It appears to work okay. Hide that, hit refresh, and see how good my aim was. Okay, that's fine, I think. Maybe a little bit wide. That's easy enough to change. Use my node select tool here. Left click, hold the shift key to constrain to that axis. Hit refresh and see how that looks. Okay, that's fine. Now I may want to do some cutouts. Again, I want to add more interest to this. It's fine to have a rectangle plate, and it complements the side shape here, but it doesn't have, it's just not really unique enough, at least not for me. So I generally try to cut out some corners, make something look like it's like someone put some kind of thought to it, like there was some kind of artist behind it, not just an engineer. So let me cut this out with an ellipse tool. Hit refresh, see how that looks. Something like that's fine. And better yet, maybe I'll take that out. Use my path select tool here, delete it, and I'm going to use my polygon tool here. Alt drag to create a polygon that cuts out. Now that looks a little bit too small. So let's change the height of this by selecting it, pressing Control T, holding Alt while we drag, and we can improve the cutout here. Maybe something like that. Hold Shift and hit the down arrow to move it down a little bit. And let's see how that looks. If I don't like this this angle here, I can just go to the node select tool here, just select these two nodes, hit Control T, and then I can hold Alt and drag there, and I'm just going to manipulate those two nodes like that. Maybe something like that's fine. See what that looks like in the 3D view. Okay, and let me add a little bit more interest to this plate. We're going to do a pattern here in a minute, but again, if I can change things at least a little bit when it comes to their subtlety, so they don't look too primitive-like, that's fine in most cases. I can get away with it. So let me go to my node select tool here and just grab this, move it out a little bit, move that out a little bit. Okay, and let's cut out a little holes like you would have for maybe some bolts there. So we'll move to our ellipse tool. We'll zoom in a little bit. Hold Alt. Oh, activate our shape tool here. Hold. That's not working. Let's try this again. Shape tool activated. Alt, there we go. Sometimes things happen, I don't know why. It's too big, obviously, so we'll select our entire object. We're going to hit Control T, and then Alt Shift and drag from a corner, and that'll reduce the size for us, maybe a little bit more. It's good enough for me. It's fairly small, but if I hold, my shape select tool is open here. If I hold Alt and then Shift, I can drag a copy of this out to this corner, and it'll keep the same subtract function there. Select them both, Alt, Shift, drag down, and there we go. Some believable holes where you might fasten this plate to the side there. Okay, now I can create a pattern here, or again I can capitalize on this shape here, and then maybe make a little bit of a cutout there. Let's see if we can do that. Maybe create a little rim around the outside, and then we can get into our patterns. So using our, let me see, we can do this a variety of ways. We can use the magic wand tool, select here, and then contract our selection, or maybe we'll just stick with our smart objects and say use a rectangle tool, subtract it here. Like that. And again, using maybe not the rectangle tool, maybe the line tool in this case. We haven't used that yet. Let's check the width. That's not wide enough. Let me undo that. Let's move this width maybe to 10. And then just using the Shift key to add that to the current selection, I'm going to cut off that corner from that subtract node there. Shift again, drag out. It doesn't need to be that long. There we go. See how that looks? See, there's many different ways to use the software and to use these shapes. Maybe let's end this with an ellipse tool. Make this better yet. Let's use the polygon tool. Hold Shift and drag, and then we can create another neat design there. There we go. Let's move that over a little bit. Give that edge a little bit more interest. Alt, Shift, drag down. Do something similar there on the bottom. Okay. Now all this is just for aesthetic appeal. If you have the time, the patience, or the desire, you can do this as well. Okay, so now let's create a little repeatable pattern here using the pattern fill feature in Photoshop. We don't have a tremendous amount of pixel information to work with, so we may be limited in the kind of patterns that we can use. But let's give it a try here. So I'm going to create another layer on top here. Control Shift N. Make sure Photoshop is selected. Control Shift N. Hit Enter key to acknowledge. Now I'm going to use my magic wand tool to just select this color with contiguous, sample all layers selected with a low tolerance. I get just this information here. That's where I want to put the pattern. But I don't want the pattern to be touching the borders here. I want there to be some separation. Otherwise, it looks a little bit strange when the normals overlap like that. So I'm going to constrain the selection again, maybe by 5. That looks okay. Now I'm going to fill it with the paint bucket tool with G. Now at the moment, the whole object fills up, and that's not necessarily what we want. But what we will do is Alt left click on this eyeball here, and that'll show you everything there except for that layer. Better yet, let's do something different. Let's drag this layer to the top of our stack here, maybe up here, and now you're going to see it turns completely white. And that's important because we're going to want to see what the pattern looks like in real time. So if I double click on this layer here, over here, you get the layer style options. We left click on pattern overlay, and I have some patterns that I created in Photoshop before. If you don't know how to create patterns in Photoshop, there's tons of tutorials on how to do that online. I won't get into it now. But they're just black and white images that Photoshop will tile for you if you need to. I'll select this one. It's one that I've created already. I'll snap it to the origin to get the alignment correct, and then I'll scale it down probably to something like 25 based on experience. That might be give me enough pixel information here. Let me see if I can make the dots a little bit smaller. I'll left click again to bring that up. Let's try 15. That might work. We're getting a little bit blurry, so the normal information may be a bit pixelated, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so now, in order for me to use this pattern information within nDo, it will not allow me to essentially bring this layer down in. I'll show you what happens when I do. If I just bring this into my layer stack here, grab the wrong part there. I'll bring this into my layer stack, and the whole thing's just going to fill up again, because as far as nDo is concerned, it's just one solid white document. And that kind of makes sense, because as far as Photoshop is concerned, visually there's a pattern, but if I want to select, say, just this white part with my magic wand tool, it'll select, well, it actually did a pretty good job there. Okay, normally I have to rasterize that actual layer to make a selection, but in this case I'm wrong. So let me change from contiguous and change my value to, say, 25, and I want to select all the white objects in this layer. There we go. 15 maybe? Okay. I think it's when I have contiguous deselected. No. Sample all layers. Maybe try this. Okay. There we go. So I've managed to select those white colors, but I think I want to increase my tolerance maybe to 50. Let's see what that gives me, because I want to make sure that I get enough of that white that it's a convincing circle. That might be good enough for my tastes. Okay. Control-Shift-I to invert the selection, and I'm just going to delete all the blue area in this current layer. Okay. Deselect, and now I'm going to make a copy of this. In fact, let me undo that. Deletion. So I can keep that entire layer intact. I'm going to make a duplicate of it now. And the reason I'm doing this is because I may end up liking this design when I delete all that information and then I carry it down into my layer stack here, but I may not. So if I keep a copy of that layer active, I can always go back, double click on the layer, change the design again, and not have to make my selection and contract it all over again. So while I'm still deciding what I like to do, I'll just keep a duplicate over here and select this copy here, Control-Alt-I, delete. Nope, I already had it inverted. Delete the blue part, and let me rasterize that layer style so I can commit the white there. Okay, I'm going to drag this down here and see how this looks as a normal. That may be just fine. Let's refresh. Okay, something like that's pretty simple. Again, you can use any kind of design you want. I think we'll just leave it as it is. So I think we can wrap it up. At the moment, you know, when I go to the next video, I'm going to have a slightly different normal map than we have here, because it's one that I've done already. I don't want to go into the full creation process and take too much time. So I will have added details up here, right, for the motor, but it's using the same processes that I did before, using smart objects, duplicating them across the surface. But there are other areas that you may want to consider. Areas like this, and this is a topic we didn't really discuss, but it may be a function that you're interested in using. Excuse me. So when you're dealing with mechanical objects, if you want to increase the level of realism or immersion when someone's walking around or looking at what you've made, you should consider the purpose of the object and what it may be used for. And in my case, this object is just you know, what it's used for, I don't know. To be honest, it's got a pump, it's got pipes, it's in a box. You know, this could be it could be a heat exchanger. You know, pipes going in, pipes going out, with a pump pumping fluid to do the cooling. But say you this object by scale in the game world is about waist height. So say for something like this that's a man could probably pick up once he disconnects some pipes, you might want to put some lifting points on there, right? That might help increase the immersion a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to create a cut going into the surface here. So I'm going to want to go to a layer that's already committed to something going The normal's facing down, so I'll zip the up one. I can delete this layer, the duplicate pattern that I made, because I don't need it, because I liked the pattern first time out. And let me go to my down layer. I think this one will work fine. Unzip it. Oh, it looks like it was already unzipped. There we go. Okay, let me zoom out in my document here and find where I'm probably going to want to add my lifting points. Let me activate my UV island overlay here. I'm probably going to put those points right about here. Let's do it on this side, and I'll show you how to mirror anything we do from one side to the other. One way to mirror, obviously in your 3D application, you can just create a mirror copy of your object and then overlay your UV islands, and the mirroring will be done automatically for you. And nDo can do a great job with that. I've created two unique sides just because I thought maybe I'd offset some designs here. Like for this, for example, I could only do if this entire image was one unique texture space. If I had mirrored down the middle, what I had done here would appear here, and looking directly on the object would appear to be too mirrored. Now I could not mirror this, but mirror the sides, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial, so we won't go into that yet. So in the case like we have now, where your object is not mirrored from one side to the other, but you want to duplicate details, I can show you how to do that rather quickly. Okay, so now we are in our downward facing normal layer here based on the features we have set in this window. I'm going to access my rectangle tool, draw a shape on a new layer, maybe about this size, and let's see how this looks in our 3D view. It's going to look strange because I did not hide my UV islands. Let me hide those, hit refresh, and there we have it. I'm going to want to change the position a little bit. So let me select the object here, shift right arrow, may be enough. Let's wait for the 3Do to refresh. Sometimes it may take a moment because you can be dealing with large file sizes. Let's tweak it a little bit more. Just nudge it with my left arrow there. Give Quixel a moment to update. Try it now. That's probably fine. Okay. Now, when you're considering the how this object may be grasped by a hand, you can assume that this lip right here will have a nice firm edge, not necessarily a sharp corner, but something meaty that a hand can grab onto. Where down here where the fingers enter, you may want to have this be a little smoother. And so a quick way to do that here with a soft gradient in Photoshop, you can't really use gradients per se with smart objects because nDo doesn't recognize the difference between black and white when it comes to the multi-normals, at least not yet. It would be great if they eventually came out with that functionality. It would make a lot of this easier. But in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this transition here a lot smoother. And first, so that I have some more shape to play with, I'm going to make this longer here, refresh this in the viewer, give this a moment to update. There we go. Okay. There we have it. Now I'm going to want to turn this this smart object into into pixel data. Okay. So you can right-click and rasterize the layer. I've had the hotkey set, but for your sake I'll change it. Okay. Now this is pixel information that if I wanted to, I could just delete with my eraser like this. Okay. In that case, I don't want to do it like that, but I will use my eraser with a strong fall off. So in this case, I'm going to change my. Here we go. If you hold Alt and right click, and you hold both, you can going left and right changes your brush diameter, and then going up and down will change your brush softness. So I'm going to make a really soft brush with a soft fall off. Probably keep the radius about there. And then I'm going to hit the erase key. When I left click, I'm going to hold Alt to constrain my movement left and right so it's straight. Okay? Just like this. Now I have my OpenGL on right now, so that it's going to draw a little bit slow, but you can see that I've increased my my gradient here. I've essentially made the bevel longer on this particular side than it is on those sides. This is slow because I have OpenGL on right now. Should have turned it off again. It's a function that you can activate here within nDo, within Preferences, Performance. You can have OpenGL drawing on, because in most cases it will make your drawing fast, because your graphics card, if you have one that's powerful enough, it doesn't have to be really powerful, but if you have one at all, you can use the performance of the card to do some things quicker. But with screen capture software, things can slow down. Back to the point here. I've erased a portion of this with a soft fall off, and so if I hit the refresh button here, you'll see that the edge goes from sharp to smooth once the document's flattened and sent. Give it a moment. There we go. Okay, it's a very subtle effect, but when you zoom out, you can kind of see here maybe where the fingers would come around and grasp. This object's kind of smooth, where you have the surface where you want to grab is a little bit sharper. Okay, maybe you can lift from that, and you can do it however you want. Now, I said that we can work on how to quickly mirror something you created on this side of a model over to the other here, which does not have the handle, but you want a handle on both sides, obviously, to grab it with both hands. So I'm going to zoom out of my document here a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. Activate my UV island overlay here. So I want my handle to be mirrored on this side. I can take advantage of my UV islands here using a similar method we used with making selections and snapping guides. So this is the center of my face here. I know that because I modeled it. So if I select here with my magic wand tool, making sure contiguous is selected, because I just want to restrict my white selection here, and I want to reduce my tolerance to 1. I'm going to make a selection on this side, hold shift and add to that selection on this side. So my selection really would encompass the whole face, but the point is that the very center of my selection here would be the center of my object, which I want to mirror across from. Okay, so let me hide these UV islands. I don't really need them at the moment. And selecting my guide here, hitting the V key, I can use the guide that I've used before because I don't really need it anymore. I could pull a new one out from my ruler, but I won't do that. Drag that over, snap it to my center here. And now I can deselect this image, and using my marquee select tool, I just want to select this portion of my image. I have the ellipse tool selected, so let me deselect that. Shift M to switch to my rectangle tool. I can make the selection there. Now, because I have this gradient here, it doesn't really matter. I suppose I can just use marquee and select around it. If I need it to be more precise in what I was selecting, after you make the selection around the object, just nudge with the left arrow key, and hit the V key, nudge with the left arrow key, then the right arrow key, and you can see your selection will snap to any contents that are currently on this layer, if that makes sense. I could have also done it by just control left clicking on that layer, and because this is the only object on the layer, that will work fine. If I had other objects on this, that would be a problem. So Control Alt T to make a duplicate copy that you want to transform. Hold Alt and left click, Shift to constrain this transform, this orientation to this guide right here. Left click on this object and select Flip Horizontal, and there we go. Hit Enter. Now we may have a problem here. This may slightly be intersecting with the plate we created before. I'm not sure. Let's just hit the refresh button and see how this looks on the model itself. Normally 3D will work a little bit faster than it is now. Again, it's the screen capture software that I have. I think that's fine. I think that'll cut it. If I needed to, I could move this entire layer down. We can see if that's an option I want to go for. So say we're in the situation we are now. Let me zip this folder we're working in, and I want to find this information. I can see it here in my normal map, but say I have 3 layers going on here, and with multiple layers within these parent folders, how do I find this exact object quickly without having to open all these up, because they're not named appropriately? A quick way to do that in Photoshop, just using pixel information, is making sure you have your V key, touch your V key so that your Move tool here is selected. Hold Control, then left click on some pixels, and when you whatever you left click on in the canvas here, will that layer that contains that pixel information will automatically be selected and expanded in your viewport. Now, with the way that nDo zips their files, you're going to have all this normal information here compressed and zipped into this parent folder. You can't actually manipulate this information. It says zipped right here. So if I try to manipulate it, I'm going to move everything on this layer, and that's not what I want to do. So in order to manipulate this information, say maybe move this down, I have to unzip the layer. And I can't do that because I currently have this select. I need to select the parent folder. Unzip that entire folder. Now, with the V key, Control left click, and it appears that this information is contained on this layer. So I could move this layer down, but I also know that the layer above it contains these patterns. So if I select both, now with the V key selected, I can left click, hold the Shift key, drag down. I can move everything that I made to a more suitable location. Give me a little bit more space here. Wait for 3Do to refresh. There we go. That looks good enough for me. Okay, so I think we're going to conclude the tutorial for 3Do. Again, I'm not going to do the entire model, but anything else that I've done in the next video where we go over material layers, your material mask that we're then going to use to create a layered material in Substance Designer. The same mask can be used to make substances in nDo, by the way. That's just not what we're going to cover in this lesson. So the normal map I'm going to use in the next lesson is going to be slightly different, a little bit more complete, but again, I use the same concepts in that model as I did for this one. So don't be discouraged. You can still follow along if you have been using what you've done here. But of course, I encourage you that you just go nuts with this thing. If you have the program, use it and learn it. It may work well for you. It certainly, in a lot of ways, it can speed up the high poly to low poly baking process. You're not getting artifacts, and whatever it is that you paint here, any normals you paint here will be shown on the model, right? So there we go. So I'll see you in the next lesson when we begin our material map painting. Thanks.